We are not long from Valentine's Day, and I have been given a Valentine's Day bake-off challenge. Yes, I have been requested to bake something with a Valentine's Day twist. Now, in terms of being hopelessly romantic, I'm pretty hopeless, a little bit romantic, but I generally don't like Valentine's Day. So what would I do? What could I do for a Valentine's Day baking treat? I thought about maybe doing a red velvet cake in a heart shape and then having a knife sliced through it with jam oozing out, signifying a broken heart. Because that's what most people feel on Valentine's Day, don't they? Not all this cliched rubbish. Oh, I bought you some roses or some chocolates. Boring stuff. Anyway, I thought, no, I can't do that. It's too much of a faff. I'm not talented enough. I'm not a very, and I'm not pretend. I don't really bake. I'm all right at cooking. Yeah, doing cooking's okay, but not baking. I am not definitely claiming to be a master baker. I do not master bake. I am not master baking to any tarts or crumpets or anything like that. Completely going in blind, which for master baking blind. Anyway, so I was looking at options. I needed to do something simple, but effective, because apart from the fact that this competition has a lot of good bakers in it, like semi-professional bakers, I know I am not good enough. I'm not adequate enough, but I needed a concept. If I can win with a concept, then I reckon I'm in with a chance of maybe finishing in the top 17 perhaps. So I racked my brains and thought, let's go retro. Who remembers Rolos? They still exist, Rolos. And the tagline, the infamous advertising tagline, do you love someone enough to give them your last Rolo?
Where am I? On TV. She's nice. Who is she? Your girlfriend. Does she love me? Oh, worships you. What's she eating? Rolo. My favourite.
It's my last one.
Oh.
But you can have it anyway.
Do you love anyone enough to give them your last word? So
I'm running with that. I'm running with that. Bear with me. Let's see what I do with this. I am gonna do some Rolo brownies. It's not my recipe, as I said, not a master baker. This is from Jane's Patisserie, so thank you, Jane. I'll look you up and see if I can tag you. I decided on something simple, basic, but tasteful and yummy. Bit like me, really. So I'm gonna go for a Rolo brownie and a quick frigging traumatic child. Look how small Rolos are, they're tiny. They're absolutely tiny, they've been nerfed. They used to be massive when I was a kid. I guess they would say, oh, we're trying to stop childhood obesity, aren't we? So we're making the portions smaller. No, you're not. No, you're not, are you? You're making the portions smaller and increasing the prices. Cynics. Cynics. So that means I've got to buy even more bloody Rolos for this recipe. Anyway, cool, let's go. Let's start at the beginning with ingredients. You're going to need 200 grams of dark cooking chocolate, 200 grams of unsalted butter, 3 large eggs, chicken eggs, not quail's eggs, 275 grams of caster sugar, 100 grams of plain flour, 50 grams of cocoa powder, 250 grams of Rolos, 100 grams of milk chocolate chips, and some caramel to drizzle on top. Please do pause the screen if you need to write this down. Let's preheat the oven, not just heat the oven, preheat, doesn't make any sense, no need for the prefix there, to 160 degrees Fahrenheit. I have no idea what that is in Celsius or even gas mark, so look that up on the Tinternet. Next we need a bain-marie. This is French for putting water into a saucepan and a Pyrex bowl over that water and heating it on the hob. Take your 200 grams of dark cooking chocolate and break it up into pieces to put into the bowl to gently melt. I probably could have done a bit better in terms of breaking it, making it a little bit smaller. Obviously, the smaller the pieces, the quicker it's going to melt. But I wasn't in a rush, so I left them fairly large. But if you are in a rush, make sure you smash them into little bits. Butter is next on the list. Butter. Chop up the 200 grams of butter into some smaller pieces, once again like the chocolate, to help it melt a bit quicker. And then what we do is we allow the bain-marie, the saucepan with the Pyrex dish over the top, to bowl. It's a bowl, it's not a dish, you idiot. We allow that to just gently gently ease the melting process. This can take a little while, but I find it quite therapeutic. My member berries are starting to tingle. I'm getting flashbacks from home economics at primary school, World Western Supermare when I was a lad. We used to do quite a lot of baking, actually. That's the only thing I remember making flapjacks and chocolate cake and macaroni and cheese. I didn't even make the pasta. It was just dry pasta with bechamel cheese sauce. So pretty good. But yeah, this idea of the way this chocolate melts is just brings me childhood. Can I lick the bowl clean? Can I lick the bowl clean? That's not a euphemism. Anyway, so let's just slowly allow this stuff to melt till it comes to an absolutely gorgeous velvety consistency. One tip for you is to remember to check the bottom because there can be some clumps of chocolate that don't quite fully melt. So keep stirring gently and maybe just lift up the spoon and let it drip down and make sure that the whole thing is suitably melted. You will know when it's the perfect point. The texture, the consistency is absolutely divine. I just love chocolate at this stage. Once we are there, we will take it off and allow it to cool for a little bit. And talking about childhood flashbacks of cookery, do it. And I will point out right now that I put that spoon straight into the sink and used a fresh one, so nothing to see here. Okay, next stage, as that's cooling down, we're going to mix together the eggs and the caster sugar. And yes, that was me trying to be all chefy and crack an egg with one hand and failing miserably and getting shell into the mix, and it was pretty embarrassing. This, anyway, takes a little bit of a while to whisk together. Best to use an electric whisk unless you've got a really strong arm. Let's just fast forward to we get to the right consistency, slightly pale and slightly larger than it started off as. The recipe says that you need to have a bit of a trail when you withdraw the whisk from the mix. So once you're at that point, then we're gonna move on and stir in the chocolate or fold in. Never understood what the difference between stirring and folding is. There still may be some residual heat in the pan, so wear some oven gloves just to be safe. But tip in the mixture together and fold until it comes a lovely, glorious brownie chocolate colour. The flour and the cocoa powder are next on the list. We are going to sprinkle this into the new mixture, the flour and then the cocoa. It doesn't matter which way you do it, I suppose. You can put the cocoa and the flour. I'll leave it at your discretion. And we then keep on folding. It's like origami with all this folding. The consistency of the mix will now be a lot heavier. You can see it's denser and getting more gloopy. That should bode well for when we cook it. Next up, you need to get some Rolos. For some reason, the recipe says frozen Rolos. I don't know why, but get the frozen Rolos and chocolate chips. Make sure you keep one Rolo aside, though. Very important. And in these babies go to the mix. We are on the home stretch now. Once the Rolos and chocolate chips have been stirred in, you're obviously not going to get them to melt, so keep them quite chunky. So I think they're good to, when you put them in the oven, they melt a little bit and get a little bit gooey. Anyway, so that's all ready to go. We just need a couple of baking tins and some parchment paper or some baking paper. I did a really bad job on this one. I'm going to use the excuse, right? I'm going to use the excuse that I wanted to look really rustic and authentic and natural, not some like really ridiculously stupid precise thing. That's going to be my excuse, and not because I'm crap. One final twist is to sprinkle on some salted caramel over the brownies. This really depends how you want to do it. I just dipped little bits on it, but maybe you could do a nice pattern or perhaps try and personalize it. Completely and utterly up to you. Once the mixture is all present and correct in the tins, we pop them into the oven. The recipe says 25 to 30 minutes. I actually went for 35. It depends on the size of the tin you're using and so on. That leaves me ample time for one final do it. I can then also clean up my mess because this got. Hey, I'm saying the process is messy, not me, but luckily I can clean as well as cook, which meant the kitchen was all spick and span and Bristol fashion by the time the brownies came out the oven, and I was somewhat pleased with myself. They actually looked passable, quite pretty. And again, that rugged look, a little bit more rough around the edges, not some perfect specimen, but some character to them. Allow the brownies to cool down, and once they're suitably chilled, you're able to chop them up, slice them as and where you sit there, as and how you see fit. If you're taking them for perhaps a load of work colleagues and doing smaller slices, it means more people get to experience it. Obviously, if you're doing something bespoke for somebody, not just Valentine's Day, it could be anything, then you can make them bigger. This recipe seems to be great for any chocolate, so replace Rolos with whatever your loved one's chocolate of choice is. However, we needed one Rolo spare, didn't we? Because let's do a callback to the beginning. Do you love someone enough to give them your last Rolo? Pah, that's just entry level stuff. What you need to do is, do you love someone enough to give them your last Rolo on your last handmade Rolo brownie? If you do, then you can follow this recipe, and hopefully the person you give that to will remember the Rolo adverts, which actually discontinued in 2003. So they're going to have to be probably at least 35 years old to appreciate just what that really, really means deep down.